Hey guys, Tara here, and I am at Maxis today checking out SimCity, and I grabbed the game's creative director, Quigley, to chat with me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So first question right off the bat, I think that people have in their minds right now, how do you grow a mustache like that?
Well, you have to be blessed with the right genes. And then purple glue sticks.
All right,
That's
so
the technique.
My day will never come then, is what you're saying. So I just got probably a good 3 hours of hands-on time with the game. One of the things that I immediately noticed upon playing is just the sheer level of detail. Exactly how much detail are we going to be able to see and notice in this game?
So first off, the thing that's important about this is that you want to be able to zoom all the way out and see the entire city, and then zoom all the way down to ground level and still see stuff there. And so the real trick is making a system that gives you stuff to look at across that entire zoom range. And so when you zoom in, and you can zoom down to pretty much street level, you'll see that the cars have interiors, and you can spin around a car and look at the dashboard of the car. And you can see that you can peer into the windows of the buildings. And even things like, we've modeled, well, using a technique called relief mapping, we've modeled the individual stairs on houses, for example. And there's you can make out the lighting on the doorknobs. So we've built detail down to the closest zoom level that you're going to get to.
Let's talk about this tilt shift for a second. What made you guys decide to go that route?
So a bunch of things. Partially, it's just, I think, a really delightful aesthetic. I like the way that it played into kind of the emotions of SimCity. I like the way that, like, if you look at those tilt shift videos, there's a few things going on that are exciting from my perspective. One of them is that they make the city feel like something you can reach into and manipulate. Another thing that I like about those tilt shift videos is that they play with time. So in the tilt shift videos, stuff is really sped up. You see boats bob by, you see cars zip by. And SimCity plays with time a lot too. In SimCity you can go at the slowest speed, or you can go at the fastest speed, which is much faster. And that aesthetic of fast motion really plays well with tilt shift too. And then finally, if you're in a 3D world, you need as many depth cues as you can get. Things that show you kind of the deepness of the space that you're in, and that pull the whole world together and make the whole world feel like one organic whole. And there's a bunch of post-processing effects that we're doing, like color grading, vignetting, ambient occlusion. But one of the biggies is that tilt shift technique. It sort of makes all the things in the world feel like they belong to each other.
Well, speaking of visual effects, you have added, yourself, I believe, a lot of filters to the game. Can you tell us about those?
So SimCity is a game where you get to make a lot of creative decisions about what you're doing. And one of the creative decisions I thought would be a lot of fun would be to let people decide how they wanted to look at their game. So we were looking at all these sort of color grading options that people do in movies. So if you think of movies like, oh, Brother, Where Art Thou? Everything's kind of tobacco stained and bleached. And if you look at movies like Amelie, everything's kind of vivid reds and greens. Any Michael Bay movie you can think of is teal and orange. And also made a bunch of these filters that optimize the game for colorblind people. So that if you have a hard time seeing, say, the difference between green and yellow, these are filters that will spread those apart and make them visible to you.
Are there any other ways that people will be able to personalize their cities and really make them their own?
Right. So in SimCity, historically, all your cities wind up having to do the same sorts of things. With this new SimCity, we wanted to make it so that your cities, since they live in a region with other cities, could specialize and do distinct things. You could make a city that's just a pure education city, that's got universities and colleges and schools, and that educates the people in the region. Or make another city that's just taking in the garbage of everybody else. Or make another city that's mining for coal and then sending it down the road. So one of the things that the SimCity is about is the way that you can tell distinct and differentiated stories about your cities, and the ways that you can make your cities distinct from everybody else's city.
What is your take on the addition of multiplayer to this one? Is that something that you personally really wanted to add?
Yeah, so previous SimCities, were essentially a solo play creative experience. And I thought that one of the things that makes the things that you do meaningful is how other people relate to them, or how other people react to them. So you can imagine if you've got a bunch of photographs and you never show anybody else, or if you've got a book that you write and you never publish it or tell anybody else what you're doing, then it's not really fully expressed. It's not all it could be. And so one of the things that I wanted to do with this new SimCity, and we'll see how people take to it, but one of the things that I wanted to do was to allow, not mandate, but allow you to build cities alongside other people, so that you could see what it's like to make something that other people care about, or make something that other people are depending upon, and in turn depend upon what other people are doing. I thought that would deepen your engagement with the game and maybe, and we'll see if this is the case, maybe give the game more emotional meaning or emotional weight to you.
One thing I have been curious about is how far into the future you'll be able to go, because I noticed there's not really a clear indication of what year it is in this one.
So the game, previous SimCities, would start in, say, the year 2000 and work their way forward. What I wanted to do with this SimCity, instead of being so literal with a calendar year, was map the visuals to the state of technology of your city or the state of wealth of your city. So that if you have a high-tech, highly educated industrial city, for example, you'll wind up with all these really gleaming, futuristic-looking factories, with lots of neon blue all over the place. And that if you start to lose it, if your education level goes down and you can't hold it all together, then those factories will start to fail because they can't get an educated population, and they'll start to be replaced with more brown brick factories until eventually you've got something that looks more like it's from, steam-powered mills of, the 19th century. It's kind of interesting because you look at this landscape in front of you and you think it's a city, but what it really is it's a UI that's telling you what the simulation is doing. And as art director and creative director on the project, my job is to make it so that everything that you see means something. It's mapped to game significance. It's mapped to what the simulation is doing. And one of the powerful ways to do that, I thought, was by showing you different tech levels as relating to kind of old-fashioned buildings or modern buildings or futuristic buildings.
Definitely. One thing I am curious about is if you guys plan on having any kind of post-launch content. For example, like you have, maybe 6 city specializations right now. Yeah. Do you plan on adding more of those somewhere down the line? So the simulation is componentized and modular. We've built this simulation out of parts. Previous SimCities were much more monolithic, where once we defined it, we couldn't really change it very much. This SimCity is much more kind of like a bunch of blocks that all snap together in various ways. So it's possible for us to extend the simulation by adding additional buildings that do different things. But for now, we just need to get SimCity, out the door. We're in crunch mode with the actual game that we're trying to make. So, eventually we'll kind of poke our heads up and say, well, I wonder what else people want. But for now, we just need to get what's in the box in the box. Well, I think it looks great as is so far. Thank you so much for talking with me. Oh, my pleasure. What's the release date for this game? Let's see. So in the US, it's March 5th, and internationally, it's March 8th. And are you guys expecting the Mac version to be ready at the same time as the PC or not? No, we're still working on the Mac version. The Mac version isn't just like a cider port. The Mac version is, we're making a native Mac version, which is taking a little bit longer. Terrific. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. My pleasure. If you guys have any questions about SimCity, I got my dirty hands on it for like 3 hours. So leave any questions in the comments below and I can try my best to answer them.